Look, I want to move on now to an issue, and we were going to have another interview this morning. We were going to do an interview with a woman called Dr. Amanda Thomas from Victoria University in response to an article that she has had published in that home of publicly funded lefty hand-wringing Newsroom. Newsroom, which used to just do so well out of the Public Interest Journalism Fund, and now has some shady kind of sponsorship deals with the left-wing universities around the country. And it publishes the rantings of social justice warrior academics and dresses them up as opinion columns from journalists. And quite often, my blood pressure goes up when I read columns or opinion pieces in Newsroom. And yesterday was no exception. And before I just lost my load on this, I sent the article to Ben and he read it. And Ben, let's just typify your response to having read the article. It was, what was the word you used?
I would call it vacuous in its intellect and devoid of any real point or direction.
Direction, okay.
It is just her hot reckons.
Okay, and it's entitled Beyond Pākehā Paralysis. It's by Dr. Amanda Thompson, and it starts thus. About 5 years ago, a small group of us were sitting around a kitchen table eating chocolate biscuits and planning a book together. The table was Dr. Moana Jackson's, and the bickies were fresh out of his oven. Oh, just gripping start to the article. As he tidied crumbs and talked about decolonization, re-indigenization, and an ethic of restoration, Jackson reflected on contemporary politics. Oh, sounds wonderful, darling. Was this in Thorndon somewhere? He warned us that the right-wing lobby group, Hobson's Pledge, shouldn't be underestimated. At that point, the group led by Don Brash, the former head of the National Party and later the ACT Party, were reigniting white fears that we Pākehā were being hard done by and Māori were getting too much somehow. If you grew up Pākehā like I did, well, like you grew up and you were Pākehā, maybe you haven't heard of Moana Jackson or you've seen his name a lot but not quite connected to his work. He was one of the most astute political minds our society has been blessed with, a profound orator and quiet mentor to many budding revolutionaries. Oh, the revolutionaries who sit round and make chocky chippy biscuits at Moana Jackson's place in Thorndon. He wasn't. He was a Maori academic who was on the gravy train. But then it goes on. Here in 2024, the fires of white fear are being stoked on a daily basis by politicians who are either ignorant or crude and cynical enough to build their politics around fear and disharmony. One of the latest, ACT leader and Associate Health Minister David Seymour, calling for Pharmac to abandon its commitment to Tiriti despite extensive evidence of health inequalities, but no evidence that health inequalities would be fixed by Pharmac having a commitment to Tiriti. But just as there is a set of people who are angry and fearful of Te Tiriti and Māori, there are many, many more people who understand the importance of the treaty and the promise it holds for a country based on justice with a politics specific to this whenua. Recent research, blah, 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 blah. Back to the group of us writing a book together. One thing we were clear about from the start was that while many Pākehā might think of decolonisation as a Māori issue, really the work of decolonisation mostly needs to happen within Pākehā communities. With Māori leadership, there is work to do in other Tao Iwi communities too, but there is a particular responsibility amongst those of us who benefit quite directly from colonisation and colonialism through our whiteness and Eurocentrism. At this critical moment, many Māori are calling for us to step up and do this work. And look, it goes on. It goes on. So this is it. It's time to move through Pākehā Paralysis. The call has been issued. Take the deep breath and gather your courage. And what I'm going to say, actually, to this woman who is Well, what is she? She's a kind of lecturer at Victoria University. I'm going to say piss off. Now, I invited you on the program this morning to try and explain this kind of undergraduate rant that you've had in Newsroom and your horribly cringeworthy, pearl-clutching attempt to be cool and woke and down with it. And you originally said you'd come on, Dr. Amanda Thomas, and then you didn't. Then you're not prepared to argue your point, not prepared to argue how you can write such rubbish from a position of academic superiority, from your comfortable first-class seat on the gravy train, and you won't come and justify the outrageous and silly, to be quite frank, just silly things that you've said. And they are silly things. Pākehā aren't paralysed. New Zealanders aren't paralysed. They want a genuine debate. They don't want intellectual elites like you wanking on about making cookies with Moana Jackson and being revolutionaries. You are so out of step with the average New Zealander in the street, it is unbelievable. And it is people like you who drag New Zealand back to a time of grievance and to division. And I really do wish that outfits like Newsroom would stop publishing the claptrap that you come up with and giving it any credence whatsoever. And if they are going to publish it, I wish people like you would have the guts to actually front up and have a debate with normal people about it. There we go.